Hi, my name is Stephen Fake. I got a semi-custom sword from Lutel-handicraft, and I had some questions about the sword itself, the balance, the weight, and how I feel about it. Like I said, this is a semi-custom sword. The top half, the furniture, and the handle are from their longsword, 15010 model number, and the blade is actually a flamberge, but the blade itself originally is from a single-handed sword, 12026, which is a single-handed blade. I asked them to make this a elongated blade so it fit the same length as their other blades, which is 90 centimeters. The quillions are the flower-shaped quillions, so they have this rounding out, round around, and then a bulbous end. If it was more circular, you'd hear this referred to as a Turk's head. Flamberge blade. The balance point is about 4.5 to 5 inches from the quillions. So it's not far at all. And the weight of this blade is 3.15. This is an exceptionally light and fast blade. One of the things that I've noticed with this blade, because of the flamberge, the way it narrows, the geometry of the blade, and also the flamberge itself, it takes some extra weight off the foible and the mezza, and that actually makes the point a little bit faster. The branch-shaped pommel, I really like. The thing I like about the branch-shaped pommel is that when I'm holding onto it, I can actually put my finger to fit in there, and then I can use that branch shape to help guide the orientation of my edge. So when I'm fighting and I'm using the geometry of the blade, instead of turning with my dominant hand, which is going to be breaking the structure of my wrist, I use my pommel, and now the whole structure of my arm on the lead hand and the rear hand stays strong, so I'm not giving up my structural strength. Some of the attributes of this sword. We were talking about the Turk's head, my little roses. When I'm doing demonstrations, I say this is my flower power sword, because these, I call them my little roses. What that means is when my adversary swings down at me and it slides down into my quillion, with a small turn, I can use those quillions to hook the blade. And go ahead and pull on it a little bit. It actually gives me some good strength, but it releases that quickly. So it's a very strong gripping tool. Go ahead and pull. And at this time, there's a lot of things I can do to him. And if I need to release quickly, I just slap the flat of his sword, give a slight turn to my hand, and I'm free to strike. The shape of the flamberge blade. For those of you that don't know, flamberge, I'm probably not pronouncing that correctly. It's a French term, and what it means is flame, because it looks kind of like a candle flame. So that's where the term comes from. Most blades that we see are straight. We don't see a lot of flamberge blades being used today. They were not common historically, but they were there. We would see them on two-handed swords, and also later in rapiers at Warwick Castle. I actually saw a flamberge basket hilt up on the wall in the Great Hall. With the straight-bladed weapon, if we cross and my adversary is sliding down, he goes straight down, there's this movement. If he's holding it here, or if he's cutting in at me, and I countercut him, there's just that sliding action. Same if I go down. I can pull down, and that leaves me point on, but it also leaves his weapon in play. With the flamberge, If we cross at half sword, mezza spada, and I pull down, I stay on line and I push him out of the way. If I counter cut into him, he gives me a cut and that pushes him out of the way, leaving me right in the way. If he comes underneath, or if he attacks me and I come underneath his weapon, that helps throw him out of the way. If I do that with a cut, that gives me plenty of time to countercut him because his weapon is no longer under his control. Even when I use my roses, this sword actually makes it a little more difficult to capture because when he slides down my blade, there's all that bouncing. That bouncing does not affect my hands. It only affects my adversary's hands. Do that again. And then I can still grab it. If I counter cut in, he cuts me. I've got lots of time and space, and each one of these little bumps pushes his sword out a little bit, and a little bit, and a little bit, and a little bit, until he's no longer in control of the weapon. Again, this is a semi-custom. That's one of the things I like about Lutel-handicraft. You can say, I want the pommel from this sword, the handle from this sword, the quillion from this sword, and the blade from that sword. And they'll do it for you. This is my 4th Lutel longsword. They're one of my favorites. I really like this style. I hope that this helps. If you're thinking about getting a flamberge blade, the other thing that's really neat about it, it scares the bejeebers out of people when you go on guard and you've got this flamberge blade moving around at your adversary as you're moving. It's a scary thing to be looking down the edge of. Turn it off.